So far, we have had a look at the purchases journal, the purchases returns journal, and the sales journal and sales returns journals. But what about the transactions that were entered into those journals under the sundry account section, and then transactions that are not related to revenue generating day-to-day business activities? The general journal is concerned with just these transactions. So let's have a look at some examples. In the first example, a vehicle was purchased from PP Motors for 43,000 Rand. In the general journal, these transactions have already been entered in one of the other journals, but they need to be transferred to this journal as well, seeing as they are not related to the day-to-day revenue generating activities. So, vehicles will be entered as 43,000 Rand on the debit side, because we know that assets increase on the debit side. And then the payee will be entered on the credit side, in this case PP Motors, seeing as it was an expense for 43,000 Rand. Next, we will have a look at what happens if an incorrect transaction has been entered. In other words, that it has been entered into the incorrect account. In this example, packaging material was purchased and it was incorrectly entered into the stationery account. So how would we handle this? So we know that an expense will increase on the debit side. So we need to reverse that. In other words, we need to enter that same amount on the credit side. In this case, stationery was initially entered as 500 Rand on the debit side. So in order to reverse that transaction, we enter the same amount on the credit side. We then need to add the transaction to the correct account, which in this case would be packaging material for 500 Rand. And then in our last example, we'll have a look at bad debts. Now, bad debts are transactions that unfavorably affect the equity of the business. Now, we know that equity increases on the credit side and decreases on the debit side. So bad debts will always increase on the debit side. In this case, 90 Rand. The other account that is affected would be the name of the debtor, in this case F Field, where that account would then be credited with 90 Rand in order to write off the irrecoverable balance. So, which are the transactions that need to be recorded in the general journal? They include the following: bad debts that need to be written off, interest on debtors' accounts, correction of errors, and year-end adjustments. Also, remember that the transactions that were entered into the sundries accounts on the cash journals also need to be transferred to the general journal.